You should be the tech person. What am I doing here? Freaking shocked as it is.
All right, here we go.
Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Austin Eartham.
And I'm Taylor Patton, and welcome to the Kitchen Table Podcast.
We're here to motivate, educate, and relate to you guys, sharing our stories, helping you get 1% better in all areas of your life. Welcome to week 32 and episode 32 and 32.1. We are talking about ways to learn and how to learn a little bit easier in your own life this week. Beautiful day to be alive.
As is every day.
Amen, brother. We haven't talked for a couple weeks since you were gone on business, but we don't have a challenge recap. That being said, we already talked about it a couple weeks ago, so if you haven't heard it, go back and check week 31.
Yeah, it's good being gone. I see the fam.
Yeah.
And that family got a new dog. He's scared of everyone. Like, he wouldn't come around people or anything. It was very interesting in that to try and get him to approach us on that. I've been back about a week now, and they finally got him. He loves them now. He comes up and
It's just that getting
it's the initial few
acquaintance
days.
and getting locked and loaded, you
Yeah.
know. All right, let's quote of the week. You guys gotta start checking out the Instagram page. We post weekly Motivation Mondays and Wisdom Wednesdays. Likes are looking a little bearish on there, so if you guys could go on and check that out, that'd be much appreciated for Taylor and I. This week, quotes by a bunch of different people. It's been said over and over. I don't actually know who initially said it, but it says, unless you try to do something beyond what you already have mastered, you will never grow. Let me redo that. Unless you try to do something beyond what you have already mastered, you will never grow. What do you think that means there, Taylor Pat?
I think it just means, like, it's a very interesting quote. And it just means that I feel like what do you really ever master?
Well,
Like, what can you ever do? Like,
they say it takes 10,000 hours to master something. I think, because I'll talk about this a little bit later, like, you can usually, once you can teach something and people can learn from you, that's when you're considered to be like, you've learned it, you know? If you can teach it well, then you know your stuff.
right.
So I think it's saying that if you never learn, like, if you never get out of your comfort zone, you never learn anything new, then you're really not achieving anything because you're not continuously learning.
Yes, absolutely. I'd also say, like, when you feel fearful of something, and that's like more like an emotional state of like challenging, because a lot of fear comes from the unknown or not knowing, and so like push into that fear.
Yeah, I think that's important. Even if it's just a little bit, like, I mean, you don't even have to go all the way. Like, just push a little bit into that fear. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like, instead of going all the way, if you just get your first step in the door, then it's easier to get another step in the door.
And even if like you say you know something, like, you know, we're like working out and kicking very well, but that doesn't stop you from like trying different stances or different things to see what helps you more.
Yeah.
Which is essentially like still growth in the end.
Yeah, and I'll just kind of go right to this now. This week, and really just today, I was like, wow, I came a long way. Because I was thinking about the kicking journey the last like 3 years or whatever that I've had. And I'm so much better now than I was then. But it's not just like in pure ball striking. Just in general, I know like last week, my recovery with the whoop was pretty low. And I was like, I need to take a day off. So I didn't kick a day. And I just did like a little biking exercise. And then my recovery the next day was low, but then it started jumping. And then this weekend it was high. And then today it was really high. And Friday and today I kicked, and I kicked so much better purely because I was like recovered and took a day off. And just mentally knowing when to like take a break, physically knowing when to take a break, knowing your body a little bit more. And I just became I've become so much smarter with myself. And really the whoops helped me do that a lot, because it helps you to recognize when you're tired, when you're not. And then just other recovery techniques, such as like Vitargo, knowing that it helps me recover, stuff like that. We'll link the Vitargo in the description. You guys can get 15% off if you want to try to boost your recovery, pure carbohydrate drink. I just think the more you can experience something is a great way to learn, actually.
Yeah, the more you like introduce yourself to different things,
exactly.
The farther you go.
Which again goes with your point earlier. You gotta try something in order to know it. You know what I mean? You gotta experience it.
Right.
Let's go to a quick ad break here so you guys can make the dollar bills, and then we'll jump in with the definition and get going on today's episode. All right, we're back. Definition of learning. Okay, there's a couple of them here. The acquisition of knowledge or skills through experience, study, or being taught. And then learning is the process of acquiring new understanding, knowledge, behavior, skills, values, attitudes, or preferences. So the ability to learn is possessed by humans, animals, and some machines, and then sometimes certain plants people believe. So getting some sort of skill or understanding, you get something new out of somebody teaching it to you, understanding it just naturally, or going through it is what it sounds like, and studying it. It's very complex, actually. What do you think of learning? What are you good at? What are you bad at? I know we're gonna have Nathan come on Thursday and talk about.
I hate being I just don't learn. I don't learn very well being like read to.
Mm-hmm.
And that the best way I learn is like hands-on, like we've been talking about, like immersing yourself into it.
Yeah. So you're big on the experience part.
Yes, and then secondly, like videos also are a big thing. If I can visually see it, that's also beneficial.
Mm-hmm.
If I have to read about it, my comprehension isn't great, like coming to like reading and that. So like it always takes me more time. So I'm always like a slower learner when it comes to reading.
Is that because you can't focus in on the content, or because you just don't enjoy it, or it's boring, or it's just too hard of, like we call it lexile, too hard of words, or why do you think you learn better hands-on? Because we're going to talk about 4 different types of learning. So if you know you learn better by hands-on or calisthenics, whatever you want to put it as, kinesiology, that kind of stuff, the movement part. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. Here, I'll look it up quick.
Yeah, I just go into, like, I never, when I was younger, like, I feel like the most...
Kinesthetics is what I'm looking for.
I feel like a lot of, especially I feel like it comes from men, reading is, like, not their, like, strongest suit. Mm-hmm. And that, like, my sister, she can sit down and read a book in a day. Me, I read a page and I'm falling asleep.
Yeah.
I was like, I could have slept the full 8 hours, woke up, started reading, and I'd start falling asleep again. And so it takes a lot of concentration for me to like understand and like comprehend what I'm reading. Like in high school, I'd read and not have any comprehension or understanding of what I just read.
Do you like reading?
No, but I mean, I like reading where I like reading. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I got you.
Like, you hand me a math textbook,
hate it.
I'm not gonna like it. Yeah. But if I get to choose like growth books or like biographies, I also like. Mm-hmm. And just because I like podcasts, I like hearing people's stories, so I like those. And but if you hand me like a drama story, like I'm not about it.
Well, I think some of that. I mean, you're not a big fan of the so-called drama, like in school.
Yeah.
Like if you wouldn't join drama club probably. So I think that's interesting.
It's funny you say that. Actually, it was.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah. Okay. Because I did.
That takes my point away. Never mind.
But what I'm saying, I didn't like reading it, but when I did it, there's a thing called improv. So basically, you just get a topic and you just go wherever you.
So that's not reading from a script or a textbook.
Yeah, and that.
You're a lot more free.
I played in one play and I had one line.
Do you play in a play?
Yeah, I can play.
Or you act, you perform.
Yeah. I had one line. I was a priest, actually.
Nice. Just think about that.
Right.
Interesting though you said that, because I also only like reading biographies. I hate like fictional books, which makes sense though, because most males prefer nonfiction over fiction, and females prefer fiction over nonfiction. And females also usually prefer like a quiet setting and reading, whereas males are like, let's go do something active.
Yeah.
And for the general population, of course, there's others that are opposite.
Right.
That's interesting that you say, because I feel the same way. Like math textbooks, I'm just like, this is so dumb, but I like can really focus in and like try to learn from it. But there's just not a story. Like, why would you want to?
Right.
Like, I just don't care. And then it's like,
No.
this is hard, and then
So,
it's annoying.
Right. You know what's crazy? So like when I'm at Woodward, like, and then you work mornings at school, so we go to school there.
Yeah.
I sit in like this. I don't want to say like special ed math class, but it's definitely for like slower learners.
Yeah.
And so they're in like algebra 1 maybe, so they're learning just like the basic like adding letters into like multiplication problems and such and all that stuff. And today their first day they learned about like geometry. I love it. I love the class because I can do algebra with numbers, but geometry I was always lost in. So I'm like out there like trying to learn what this class. I'm like talking to these kids. I'm just as lost as they are, and it's just a fun learning experience with these kids.
See, when you don't know something, you're on the same level. Like everybody, again, back to your first point, everybody's afraid to make a mistake. But at some point, everybody starts there, right?
Yeah.
Like we went ice skating. Me and my fiance went ice skating on Sunday this past weekend, and she was kind of nervous at the start and like didn't want to like. They have like these little push things, like the big. There's these big red things that you push around so you don't fall in front of you. And so she didn't want to take them. She's like, they're for little kids, and I was like, it's gonna help you like learn to skate more, because you gotta like push off side to side.
Yeah.
Because she like couldn't have her weight positioned how she needed. Then she used one of those, and she like just to get the basics down for a couple laps, and then it makes it a little bit easier to do. It's like, yeah, she might look weird for 2 laps, but in the end, is really gonna enhance that learning.
Right.
So if you don't know, you don't know. You know, like everybody's in the same boat at some point.
Right. Does she really look like in the grand scheme?
No, I mean exactly.
It's just like a internal.
Yeah, exactly. Not, I mean, really, nobody's looking at her or anything.
You know, like that's crazy. Like no one wants to like not know. Like no, everyone's afraid to ask. Like.
Yeah, but nobody that's so true. Everybody wants to know, but they're afraid to take the step to actually know. Or like in school, I was always afraid to ask a question because I was like, I don't want to ask that. But really, it's so true. If one person has that question, I bet 10 people do.
Yeah.
And like, or if you think you know the answer and you're afraid to say it, and then somebody says it, and you're like, yeah, that's really good. And you're like, crap, I could have done that. That always frustrated me.
Right. But yeah, the ice skating. That's one thing I've never done, and still probably one of my like I would say biggest fears. But it's just something like I am very hesitant towards doing. Always scared I'm gonna fall and like cut myself with the ice skate.
The blade?
Yeah.
Nah, you won't.
Like I definitely think I would get like the ice skate stuck in my cat.
No, it literally couldn't happen. Like if they're not that sharp.
You never know.
You'd be fine, especially if you wear like gloves on your hands and you have to worry about like if you fall and somebody slips on you.
But that's what I'm saying. Like my fingers chop off.
No, it's not gonna happen. It wouldn't chop it off too. They just slide by you
until they run over.
Ah, jeepers! Another story for another day.
Then I just got 5 thumbs essentially.
5 thumbs. You have 5 thumbs.
Yeah. If my fingers got caught off, I got 5 thumbs.
I think you're fine.
I got nubs.
I think you're fine. You know what else though? Because I learned better doing hands-on stuff too. So I had a sociology professor at UNI, and she had us play. It was basically Monopoly to learn about the topics that we were doing, and you had to create a game out of it. And then she explained the stuff that we were going to learn, and then we turned it into a game. And I never studied once for the class, like that section of the class, I should say. And the test was like super hard. Everybody did well. I shouldn't say everybody. The people in my group did really well, which 4 of them were males. I don't know if that makes a difference. But just going through it, like it's easy to share your story because you experience it, you know? Whereas lectures, for you probably sucks. Like you probably hate lectures because you have to like look at a PowerPoint or take notes. I love taking notes because I remember by writing down. But like if you have to read a textbook and then take a test over it and write notes over it, you probably hate that.
Yeah, I'm shocked.
Shock. That's your new favorite word. I think that's just interesting.
Right.
Also,
lectures weren't bad. Taking notes were good. Like wasn't bad, but it was more or less like I write down once, and then like that was like the learning point. Like that, you know, like you're just walking through a lecture, like that's their only learning point is like is either you're gonna read from a textbook or you're gonna listen in class, and then you have to go from there.
Yeah. Which see, like
unless you have like a lab where like you're doing like hands-on stuff like.
Yeah, but labs in college to me were so difficult because they were just nobody like explained the lab or showed you how to do the lab. They just gave you a procedure and said do it, and that's just so confusing to me. Like the big words, and again, I just wasn't interested in the lab. Like we made ibuprofen once, which was kind of cool, but some of the stuff is just like look at your neighbor and get it done. Like I would see what they're trying to concoct together, and then I try to just match it. So if they got it wrong, everybody got it wrong. And then the TA would come over. This isn't organic chemistry. The TA would come over and be like, "Hey, put that on top of this instead." Because he knew nobody knew what was going on.
Right.
So then we would try to like, he would help us, and we try to just like go back and forth to figure it out.
Yeah.
But then again, we still learned by that. Maybe we didn't learn as well as we should have. But even this is probably bad to say, but even by copying somebody, you still learn somewhat. Is it the best way to learn? Absolutely not. Is it long term? Absolutely not. But you still learn a little bit by copying because you have to read it, you have to type it.
People do it in general, like I do it. Like when you walk through a new situation or a new place, like
you copy whatever else.
You look around at what everyone else is doing.
Yeah.
And then like you don't ask questions.
Yeah. Think about I hate walking into like new places or buildings because you're like, I have no idea what this looks like. I don't know where I'm going.
Right.
So when you just follow everybody else.
Right.
And like the other day, I think this is so funny. I was going into a Knights of Columbus meeting last Tuesday, and there was a activity going on. We normally have pizza or whatever, and there's another organization going on in the kitchen. So normally we go in the kitchen and grab our pizza, and I saw the pizza was in our room that we normally go to, like where we have our meeting. And then I just followed a guy literally from the parking lot inside, and then he goes up to the kitchen, throws something into this big trash can. I'm just following him this whole time. I walk right by the pizza. I'm following him. I grab a napkin. I'm looking around because he's looking around, and I was like, I thought the pizza's over there. And then he's like trying to figure out where the pizza is, and I was like. And I said the same thing, hey, where's the pizza? And I kept following him, and then he got a plate, and he was like talking to a guy. He's like, oh, I'll let you go first. You look like you're in a hurry. Probably because I followed him the whole time. And he found out I was an idiot. I was just like, oh my goodness, I should not have done that. Because I was just acting like I didn't know what was going on. But I saw we walked right by the pizza, and I was like, well, maybe we're supposed to go in here first still. So it was just a mess.
Interesting.
But going back on like wanting to learn but not taking the steps to learn, think about how much more power you feel like you have if you know something. Like I had a kid in high school who just knew a little bit about everything, and he seemed so intelligent about it. If he was or not, I don't know, but
right. But yeah.
It's hard not to feel entitled though. You don't want to feel entitled.
Right. The more like, I wouldn't say interesting you are, but the more like
well-rounded.
Yes, you can just like talk to anyone.
Yeah. And more understanding.
That's like interesting. Like, I wouldn't say I'm into politics, but I pay attention more to what's going on in the world, and so now I like understand like more what people are talking about like in the world.
Yeah.
Because like I know what's going on a little bit more, and that so definitely like.
I think things like podcasts help that too. Not just watching. Like it used to be, you just sit down and watch the news. If you don't watch the news, you don't have any like stuff from
Right.
But now it's like you can get on Twitter. You can literally Google anything. Everything's like live streamed. I mean, it's so much easier to get your knowledge, and that's why I think like like we could have the whole college debate, which we're not gonna, but like just because you don't go to college, people used to think you're like dumb, you don't have any knowledge. There's so many people that don't go to college or have a skill-based college like welding or something like that, a trade school that have so much knowledge as well. Maybe it's just not in the subject that you pay attention to.
Yeah. I think college is a great place. I think the cost of college is becoming a huge issue in the world.
Yeah, I would agree.
Well, I should say has been a huge issue in the world.
It's a lot of money for a piece of paper.
Yeah. That a lot of people don't use.
Yeah, true fact there. True fact there.
But going back, and I also, like, going back into copying people, like, when I, like, probably, like, a year ago was when I kind of, like, really started lifting weights, about a year and a month, year and 2 months, whatever. Just going to the gym and just watching people and how they worked out. And I'm like, oh, I can do that exercise. And then, so, like, yeah, that's all I did. For my first few weeks, I'd go in and I'd do my, like, few exercises I knew how to do. Yeah. And then I would just add in stuff that I'd watch other people do, like, during the workout. Which is, again. And then I'd come home and watch it on YouTube. Like,
yeah, that's what I was going to say.
I got big into watching influencers and such, and how they worked out, like, their different split sets, how many reps they did, the stuff they.
I got so many thoughts. I have so many thoughts right now. Okay, so everybody, I mean, some of you know who's listening that my dad's a chiropractor, right?
Yeah.
I firmly believe I could become a chiropractor in 6 months.
Just from learning from your dad?
Just from learning. He could teach me in 6 months. I watch him. I adjust myself sometimes, like parts of myself. And I mean, like, he could teach me in 6 months. He went to school for 3.5 years. I could do it in 6 months, I bet. Just from learning from him. I mean, there's the business side of it and there's the actual doctor side of it. But just by watching him and learning from him, I could do it. CrossFit, I literally, you remember like last summer when I started watching a lot of CrossFit videos? I got better at CrossFit just by watching it.
Yeah.
And like I would watch CrossFit and then I go do CrossFit and my workout would be better. Because I just saw somebody do handstand push-ups or move a barbell and I could just mimic it. Like my visualization is like, I want to talk about that later. That's going to be our challenge for the week, is kind of find out what kind of learner you are and how it can help you. I've said this on the podcast before, but there was a basketball player a couple years ago at a higher division, injured for the year, but he went to practice every day. He basically like broke his leg, and he went to practice every day, did sitting shots and stuff like that, and watched his team practice and like lift weights. And then he got out of the cast and started doing stuff like basketball activities again. And it was like he never missed a beat because he was visualizing so hard. Like I helped at a camp for kicking 3 weeks ago, and I was like the next day, like it was Sunday the next day, and I don't usually work out on Sundays. I was like, why does my hip hurt so bad? I literally think it was because I watched kids kick all day, and that muscle tension like happens internally. Like the muscle fibers are clicking over and over, and I probably saw 300 kicks that day. So it was just crazy how you said you watch people and you figure out your routine that way. And then on a higher level, think about, so like now pretend you got random Joe in the gym that you watch, okay? Then next time you get a coach. That coach has an exercise science degree, has studied it for 10 years, let's say. Then you get a coach who's coached Olympians and knows the really itty-bitty details of keeping the barbell close to your legs or whatever it might be on whatever lift you're doing. And now you're at the top, like you can gain, like right now you just need like the basic stuff, right? Then as you get better and better, you need that higher level stuff. And it's crazy to see how people went from stage 1 to stage 10. It's just super interesting to me how people learn and how quick they can learn based on their outside environment.
And investment into like.
Yeah, obviously, yeah. If they only lift, in this example, if you lift once or twice a week, you're not going to get as much gains as if you lift 4 times a week. Yeah, definitely. I do think rest is important, though. Use that rest in there. Where do you learn the best? Like in your car? Like people say, like you learn the best in the shower or on the toilet. I think the shower is really a place where I learn the best for me. I mean, I
I'd
don't know
say
about
in
the
the shower I learn the best about myself.
Yeah,
If that makes
it's
sense.
a good reflection time.
That sounds
Yeah.
so weird.
It does, but I think everybody knows what you're saying. If they want to take it weird, they can take it
because
weird.
literally you're just like there, you're in your birthday suit, and you're just reflect. You have nothing else to really think about. Like,
And
you're just
honestly,
reflecting.
it's kind of soothing, the water hitting you,
Yeah.
especially like if it's really hot out. If
I'm
it was good,
Yeah.
or really cold out too, like to have the hot shower.
I mean, yeah, I would agree with shower. Cause I was kidding that, like, I forget that. I mean, like, not in the shower, but like that I've been in for a while.
Yeah.
Does that like just be like deep in thought about random things that
Yeah.
are I'm giving? Sometimes like I used to, I don't as much anymore, but like I come home from work, like mad at a kid, or like I'd be replaying a thing that happened, and then I would have a conversation with a kid in the shower.
Because you're just replaying it. Yeah,
so
you're
I could go
thinking
back
about it.
because I was like, that'd be caught in my head. Like I knew I wasn't getting through to him or saying the right thing to him. So I would be in this way, and yeah, so I shower for sure, and on reflecting and like just understanding like the points of like my day, and then I feel like that just like come up, and then I don't know, I really don't know where else. I don't like. I could say the weight room. That's where I learn more.
Yeah.
My works, I'm learning that's where I'm like I don't.
So
know
it's not like a
exactly,
specific setting. Like for me, my specific setting would be it needs to be quiet. I need to have some sort of storyline to get me going. Like obviously that interest needs to be sparked, but I need it to be quiet to learn. If people are talking and I'm distracted, 18 things are going on, it's really hard to really lock in.
Yeah.
Just naturally.
Yeah.
But like reflecting, I'm really good at reflecting in the car and in the shower.
Yeah.
Those are my two spots.
Yeah. I really only listen to podcasts anymore. Like sometimes in the morning I'll listen, or come home I'll listen to 3 or 4 songs. I don't really listen to music unless I'm working out. But I'll listen to podcasts, and then that'll spark like a thought that I have off of like what they're talking about, and then I turn the podcast on, and I'm like talk like I'm talking to those people in the pod.
Also,
my thoughts.
Also, speaking of that, do you know that if you like, let's say you listen to a podcast on your way home, and then you go to bed, you remember stuff more if you take a nap or sleep right after you learn it. Do you know that?
Really?
That's why most people are the most productive at the start of the day or at the end of the day, because you have your peaks and valleys throughout the day, right?
Yeah.
But usually, once you are fully awake, is the best time to learn, and then after you're like settled in. But if you have to, like, let's say you gotta get aroused for something again, like you gotta study before you go to bed. So you study, and then the test is actually easier because you study. That's like if you're high or drunk, you're literally supposed to take the test high or drunk because you remember in the state of mind that you were.
Right. Kind of like you when you like chewing bubble gum.
Yeah. So that's why I think that's probably why you remember podcasts so well, because you listen to it right in the morning, or you go to bed sometimes right after you get home and shower, or you're working out and you're thinking about it as you work out.
Yeah.
Or you just go to bed.
Right now, my routine is I'll wake up, listen to podcasts, try to work, listen to a podcast going to the gym, and then I put songs on about 5 minutes, 10 minutes out.
Yeah.
And then I listen to podcasts when I'm doing cardio, then podcast on the way home. And so yeah, definitely. The time I'm worse at is like 2 to 3.
Yeah. You get drowsy.
I'm drowsy. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that in school, they're especially class like I sit in usually is like spotting kids. This is not my class. It's English, but she teaches English from like like they like do Chinese stuff or Japanese stuff depending on whatever they're talking about. But she's teaching English, so it's just like not my style. Like I mean I'm not a Chinese fan anyway, as is like as a country, so like I don't care like to really like invest my time. But
If it
yeah,
was Thailand, you'd be like all for it.
Not I'm here for it.
If you want to visit Thailand, you don't want to visit China.
Yeah.
I want to visit China though.
I just don't like how China handles like basically like enslaving the entire population and all that. Like
another topic for another day though.
I just like freedom. That's it. But anyway, yeah, 2 to 3. I'm not learning anything. I need a nap.
So okay, but if you think like if let's say the class then they got up and moved around or had a project or something, don't you think that you would like overcome that tiredness?
Yeah.
That's a lot easier.
It's only about like
your drowsiness.
20 minutes. Half hour.
Your drowsiness meets your so-called most boring part of your day, and they collide.
Yeah.
And it's just down.
It's just bad. But yes, I mean, I'll walk around and all that stuff, but it takes about 20 minutes and I'm out of it.
Yeah.
And then, but yeah, that's definitely where I learned. I'm not learning anything, really.
Yeah.
What are we talking about? What do you mean?
Waste
not the college.
We already did it. We're done on the left.
Oh.
We're on the right now. I got it.
What do you mean? What you talk about when you talk about you're getting smarter?
Is it start? Remember? We're good. We're just listen to that.
Okay. Just listen. All right.
So you're the bottom of your day per se hits the bottom of your energy level. So if you had a more energetic 20-30 minutes, you'd snap out of it a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Do you think that is due to? Do you think you would have that tiredness if you were a different type of learner than the kinesiology type one? What is the word I always can't pronounce? Kinesthetic learner. Sorry, not kinesiology.
No. Possibly, but I also feel kind of like that's just like the easiest downtime and.
Yeah, because you got up at the time you woke up.
Yeah, they've been up for a few hours, drained my mental energy, all that. Then we're sitting there.
Yeah.
And then.
Does the teacher have different ways to learn, or do they always do the same thing? Is it always the lecture type deal?
No, sometimes they lecture, sometimes they watch videos.
Okay.
That's about it.
Because I was wondering about there's 4 major types of how people learn per se. We both said that we're the calisthenic or kinesthetic. Sorry.
Isn't that a
calisthenics is like movement like the human flagpole is what calisthenics is. But yeah, and then kinesiology is like movement of the human body and how it moves together and parts. And I can't ever say. Let's just go to kinesthetics. Kinesthetic learners here.
Yeah.
So obviously we said that they're called tactile learners, so they learn through experience of doing things. This is what men usually prefer compared to women, if you want to take a stat on that.
It's a valid stat.
These types of learners might struggle to sit down and be still. Like me, I hate sitting still, but I'm like so disciplined that I'll do it, That's why I hate ADHD, because they just give it out like candy now. You know what I mean? Like they just say, yeah, put this kid on ADHD pills.
I would also say though, like
they might just learn better.
Yes, because I think like now, like younger, like growing up, like kids instead of like having downtime, kids' brains are always on the go. Like even us growing up, like coming through technology, we still kind of had that period where like we weren't in front of screen, like you know what I'm saying, like even though we had TVs. Like parents, like my parents at least would still make me go outside if it's nice outside. Yeah. For at least a little bit. And we played sports as kids, so I still feel like that. Like us now, like kids now, I'd say though, like their brains never really get a break.
Yeah.
And they're continuously like either seeing screens, their attention's being drawn to different things. So I think again, like kind of like how the world's changing. Like our brains are changing, and ADHD is becoming more of a thing, just because
that's what they're exposed to.
Yes.
Yeah, I do agree with that, but I also think that like, so Nathan's going to talk about his dyslexia on Thursday with us for the 1440, right?
Yeah.
And in high school, everybody thought like he was dumb or there was an issue with him. And really, everybody has a learning disability. It's just if you want to put a name to it or not, right? If you told me in high school, I've never been like tested for ADHD or ADD, but I probably had it just because I love moving around. I move around in my sleep so much. Like, I've never, like my mom said, I always kicked in her stomach or whatever.
Mhm.
Like I always keep moving, but I also have like the discipline to like sit down and study. So I'm like the opposite for the kinesthetic learners. It says that it might be hard to study, but like I can study forever. I'm just so disciplined to do it. But if you like take those abstract ideas and walk them out or act them out in the steps, it's probably going to be easier for those types of people, maybe like us, to learn. And I think it's also important to note that like you might be a kinesthetic learner, but you're also an audio learner. You said that you're not like just one all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Again, I think it was just like most people, everyone can learn like every way.
Yeah. Everybody has a capacity to learn.
But it's like what's like most efficient. way
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
learn.
Again, it's like quicker versus having a
Yeah.
top-notch coach or having average Joe at the gym that you're watching.
Yeah, especially now, because now being out of high school, I can learn about what I want to learn about. Like
Yeah.
I'm not forced to sit down and learn about something.
Which also sparks that interest, which makes you put more effort into it, which then again that excels the process so much quicker as well.
Mhm.
You have some sort of goal in mind. It's not you're forced to do this, you know.
Yeah.
But I do think a little bit of force is good because you do want to be kind of well-rounded.
Yeah.
To an extent, like I struggle with this myself because I really want to understand just how the world works, which is very complicated to.
I was like, that's a very vague question.
Yeah, oh, it is 100%. But like I picture like a concept map. You know, like you have a word bubble, like you put the world, and then you have different segments on it. So politics, sports, technology, whatever it might be, right? And I just want to understand a little bit. So I want to be like Mario. Like Mario in the video games, Mario, he's pretty good at everything. He's not great at anything, but he's pretty good at everything, right? So in types of world knowledge, like if I started a business, I'd want to know a little bit about a bunch of things in order to be able to hire people who are professionals at it, and then I would be professional at the one thing that I would want to do.
Right.
Which get to that maybe, and we'll see if it happens or not in a few years.
Mhm.
So we'll save this podcast and then jump back to it. But basically, you don't need to know everything about everything. But if you have a base knowledge of things, everything's a lot better, like we said at the start of the podcast.
Right. But then, yeah, then you look at the world and be like how like forceful people are to like not changing.
Yeah.
And that, but then how fast the world changes.
Yeah. Well,
You know, isn't that so weird? Have you ever thought about that?
Yeah, it's like think about the next type of learning is reading and writing. Think about when we were in school, all like the scholarly articles, people read books, write this, and that stuff's like from 2000. That's 22 years ago,
Right.
and nothing's been wrote new. Like they probably still read books.
Right.
When we were in high school, we're probably reading books that were 10 years old.
Just thinking,
Like everything's changed. You can't keep up with it.
just thinking about like going to college in like the 2000s and that, or even earlier, like when you had to like write reports and you had to actually go to the library and get books.
Yeah, think about how slow your knowledge is compared to now. Yeah.
Yeah, like how much accessible knowledge is.
Yeah, because think about it, if you're the third type of learner is auditory learners, so obviously like listening or watching videos. Think about if you could just go on YouTube and like, for instance, for me being science, if you look up like there's a bunch of different like science people to subscribe to. Like there's a chemistry one. I forget the name of it right now. It starts with a K though. But literally, my best friend in college. I don't understand what the teacher said. I'd literally Google whatever the topic was. So I'd type in carbon something something, and or let's say it's stoichiometry, which is complicated math and chemistry. So Khan Academy. So I searched Khan Academy stoichiometry, and boom, it's right there, and it gives an example and everything. It's like so much better than having to read that stupid textbook and be like, what is this? Because the textbook gives you like the basic. This is how you basically do stoichiometry. Here's a basic written out problem, right? Whereas then you switch one number or letter, and you're like, how'd that get there? And you're just so confused, you know? Just like in algebra.
I'm confused on how you even say that word.
Yeah, dude.
Like,
Yeah, chemistry sucks, man.
Yeah.
And then the last one is a visual learner. So this is like I said, the whiteboard or smartboard basically helps you learn, and then maybe hearing it, you can use a little bit of visual as well, and then you writing it might help you. You're literally using all four right there. If you watch a video, because then you're acting it out or moving it. Maybe you have like a model and you're moving the pieces, the atoms around. So again, it takes a little bit of everything, but learning is definitely complicated.
Right.
There's different, but go ahead.
Learning, so it's very, I don't know if complicated would be the word. It's just very like, there's a lot of depth in the learning.
Yeah, because so there's a guy named Abraham Maslow. Do you ever heard of Maslow's stuff? So it's in a bunch of like psychology books. So basically, there's 4 ways to understand. So I looked it up earlier today when I was thinking about this. I'm actually reading a psychology book too, so it's interesting that we're talking about this. But basically, we talked about earlier how we're just scared to do stuff, and then sometimes you're like, you know what? I'll just do it. Who cares, right? You just look around. So the first part is like unconscious incompetence, meaning you don't know what we don't know, right? Who cares? You're just going with the crowd. But then, once you're conscious incompetence, you know that you don't know this, right? So you're walking in your building, you have no idea what's going on, and now so at the start it's like, I'll just follow the crowd. And the next time you walk in or go to another building, it's like, I have no idea what I'm doing here, but I'm gonna just try not to look stupid. I'm gonna follow people, right? And then you have conscious competence. So now you're trying to work out what you don't know. Okay, where is the check-in table? Where do I go? Where's the locker room? Where's the sales associate? Whatever type of building you're going in to look at, right? And then you have unconscious competence where you just walk in, you do it because you've learned it, right? You're used to it. And think about sometimes those take 3 times walking into a building. Sometimes it takes a year. I walk into St. Francis all the time. I still don't know how to get places. Like people like take these back ways, and I'm like, I just take the same route, and I'm like going around the whole building to get there. Somebody's like, boom, boom, there. I was like, how the heck did you just get here? I was like, we walked in together, and you've been here 2 minutes. I've been walking the whole time.
I can get those steps in.
Yeah, maybe. So I just think those are like the so-called Maslow's 4 stages of learning, but then there are different levels when you do. Again, there's so many things that affect these levels, I think. But the first one, what do you think the first one is? Let's say you learn math. How do you do it the next day?
Wait, what?
So let's say you're learning algebra or your geometry example, right?
Yeah.
When you learned it the first day, how did you come back the second day and know what you were doing? What did you do?
Oh, today's the first day.
Okay.
I consciously I did not know how to do it.
Okay, so
I was already in that's why I grabbed the paper because I was like, I can't help you because the algebra stuff, the X and Y's I can do, like the basic stuff. I was like, I can do pretty well.
Yeah, but then what I'm saying is, then you learned it though, right? Eventually.
Yeah.
So
what, geometry?
Yeah.
Oh, first day. I'm still out here lost.
You didn't learn ever? Pythagorean theorem, you know what that is?
That's what I'm saying. I'm still lost out here.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Different example.
Yeah,
well, we gotta do some geometry on this channel.
I know, but let me say this.
A squared, B squared equals C squared. You should talk to Will about doing some building stuff. They use geometry every day.
Right.
Go to kicking with me. I do geometry every day. I kick 90-degree angles.
Well, I think I'm gonna do geometry every day, like working out and such, and driving and all that.
Perfect.
But what I'm saying is like,
just make sure you don't do a 180-degree turn and go the wrong way.
Learning the radius and the area.
Okay.
I didn't get to learn as much because I had to be out of the room for most of it.
Yes. Okay, I get you. But let's say today you're trying to learn the circumference formula. Okay. What's the first thing you do?
I have no idea.
Okay. not literally. How do you learn it?
Google it.
Okay, you Google it, and then what do you do with that?
I'm probably pushing on a YouTube video, honestly, actually.
Okay,
Because they're gonna walk me through it.
Okay, so they're gonna walk you through it, and then the next day when you have to do a problem, how do you know?
Well, I'm gonna try and do it by myself and then
Okay.
look at the answer.
Okay, so when you try to do yourself, what goes through your brain?
What goes through my brain?
Yeah. What you looked up the day before, right?
Yeah, because that's what.
So what's that called? Starts with an R.
Knowledge. Retention.
Pretty much. Remember, the first thing you do is you remember it, right? You memorize it. People say that you can't. That's what I was trying to get to last 4 minutes. People say you shouldn't have memorization questions, right? It is literally impossible. The first thing you have to do is memorize it.
Yeah.
How do you remember 2 + 2? I just said the word remember. It's so hard not to say remember in that situation too. I was gonna say, how do you remember it? I just remember it.
Yeah, because
that's the first stage of learning.
Yeah.
Is to remember it. Yeah. Then why do you go to the YouTube video?
Why?
Yeah, why? Why look that up for you? It's gonna be good.
Because they can walk me through it.
Yeah. So you can what?
Learn.
So you can understand how to do it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's step 2. Then what do? You said the next day when you come to class, you're going to try to do what?
Do it by myself.
You're going to try to do it by yourself. You're going to try to apply it to a question. Right?
Yes.
And ideally, this is when your type of learning with the kinesiology. No, it's not right. Kinesiology is body movement. Gosh, kinesthetic. Gosh, this episode is going to be bad because I keep doing that. Just ignore me.
You looked it up. And you
I still can't do it. I know. I did look it up and I still can do it. So this is when you could apply it to like a real world problem in a building or trying to figure out maybe you're baking a pie. You want to see how much you need per slice or whatever.
Just throwing stuff together.
Yeah, but don't just do that for pie. Don't ruin pie. But anyways, so that'd be a great time to apply it, right? We always talk about we want to apply something to real world that we learn.
Right.
So step 3 is you apply it. Then what do you do after you bake the pie or you look at your building that you made the circumference of? You want to look up the circumference.
I'm so lost now. You got me thinking about pie, building, math problem.
You're right. That was bad. I take full responsibility for that. No debate this time. It's my bad.
So you're over here with ADHD.
I've learned disability. Remember, everybody does. All right. So let's say whatever your math problem is. I don't know what the heck has what can we look up? What has the circumference of something?
What do you mean, like circumference?
I'm trying to use an example. What has circumference?
Like
the arc.
I think of that or like a bowl.
A bowl. Okay, perfect. You're trying to find a circumference of bowls you're trying to buy, and you need a certain bowl size. So you're trying to figure it out. Okay, so when you do the problem and you figure it out, you need whatever circumference. Can it be square feet? Can you have square feet in a circle? Yeah, you can. Of course you can. You gotta find the square feet. You know it's square.
Why are we still on?
Because we're gonna go through the 6 levels. We're on level 4 because I can't talk. Okay, so you got your circumference, and then you looked at the answer, right?
Yeah.
So then when you look at the answer, you compare it to your own.
Yeah.
Right. So you analyze your answer, you compare it or evaluate to the other one.
If I'm wrong, I go back and look again.
And then you create again, right? And then you keep creating.
If I'm right, then I'm done for the
day. One problem done, cashed out. But then you create and you keep doing it over and over, right?
Yeah.
And then
then you have it down and memorized.
Well, not maybe memorized. Hopefully by then it's more of you can use different problems.
Then when I have it learned, then kind of like as you said before, like that's when I'm able to like teach someone else, which then I learn it even better.
Yeah. Because then exactly, and you're still practicing it, even though you're teaching it, you're still practicing it.
Yeah.
Right. That's why you should always learn. Right. If you're the smartest person in the room, get the heck out of the room 80% of the time. Other 20%, you better be showing some dang good leadership skills.
Right. You're always learning every day.
Yeah, and that's the most important thing that I think we need to get. That's the value we were trying to create on this episode.
Yeah.
That learning is important, no matter what you're trying to learn. The psychology and stuff, just some stuff to help you or maybe recognize how you're learning in your day. But you got to know yourself personally, how you learn, and you got to be invested in it, and you got to be okay with making mistakes.
Yeah. Learning such like, okay, then let me like go into this way. Like, how do you learn about like relationships? Then everything like we just talked about goes out the window.
No, it doesn't.
So you're, I mean, yes, the steps, but I mean, like,
the steps are the same.
So me thinking about how I learn, I was like, if I'm learning about like how to be a better friend, and that I'm not Googling how to be a better friend.
No, but what do you say the best way you learn is?
Hands-on.
Hands-on. So having those experiences.
Yes. I'm saying is like you can have hands-on experiences, but like you don't really learn. You know.
You don't learn.
I mean, okay, you learn, but like
you don't want to make a mistake. You want to know before you make a mistake.
You learn a pattern of how to have a relationship. You don't.
Yes.
Then you have to go outside and like learn how to have a deep relationship with someone, or learn how to set boundaries in a relationship.
I think we always talk about life skills in school, and I think that when you're doing other stuff, like let's say during your circumference thing, you talk to the teacher for help, or you have a person in your class who helps you, or you do a group project. You're not directly trying to learn how to have relationship skills, but indirectly you are learning that at the same time. And I bet somebody who wants to like learn how to have a better relationship and they're a reading writer to learn, I bet they do Google it and read about it. But then again, it's so hard to say like this works or that works because everybody is different, right? My value might be different from your value. But no matter what, whether it's you listen to a podcast and they say something about friendships, you might think, oh, yeah, that's important. And then you remember it, right? And then you try to apply it in a relationship to you. So even if it's not direct or the so-called perfect steps or it's the certain way to learn like we've been talking about, subconsciously you're definitely doing it.
Yeah. I think this will, like, to me, I feel like that would bring more value to listeners and learn how to do circumference.
Cool.
That's hard.
Okay, the point of that was to give the 6 steps because no matter what you're learning in the 6 steps, that's just a very, my point with the circumference is it's a very concrete example that they can follow. Yeah. Whereas the relationship one, everybody does it, of course. It's just really hard to follow because there's no certain, oh, you do this 1, 2, 3, 4 steps and you're best friends.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and life's exactly, you're right. Life is exactly like that. There's no perfect 6 steps. I just wanted to help people to recognize the psychology of what's really happening.
Right. Right.
But yeah, you're totally right.
I'm just
world
on a different level with like learning.
Yeah.
Like another depth of it.
Yes, which is good because this is learning because I gave the basic knowledge, right? Yeah. I gave the steps, and then you applied it to a real life situation that every listener is probably doing daily. Whether it's a relationship, whether it's something in their job they're trying to learn, or whatever it might be, right? Yeah. So I think that we just learned, and we didn't even know we were doing it.
Right. Have you ever looked up how to deal with personalities? Now I'm thinking about. Sorry, this kind of got me thinking about people and like.
Well, I think that's just like learning too.
That's something that people navigate every day, but I feel like I've never looked up. I mean, I've looked at personalities, but I've never looked up really like how to navigate other people's personalities.
We've talked about this a little bit in school, like the kid who gets up and walks around, like give them a fidget spinner because that's like how they learn, or that's like what they do in different personalities, right? Or somebody.
I would say that's personality. That's just behavior.
Okay, well, behavior stems from a personality, though. So I think indirectly. We've talked about that a lot, or even like home life, or different socioeconomic status, all the factors that kind of play into the so-called personality. We've looked at those factors, and every situation is a little different. So I think there's different, just like on your sports teams growing up, or within an organization, you have to, I don't want to say treat people differently, but based on what they're good at, not good at, and how they respond, I think you do have to have a case-by-case basis on what you're trying to do.
Yeah. Do you think there's more personality types now?
Oh yeah, just like you said earlier, just like technology and
That's how I feel.
humans evolving, totally different ballgame than it was 6
Now I'm
years
interested
ago.
in like looking this stuff up.
Like society has changed a lot, and I don't know if it's good or bad, but I know older people think it's changing for the bad because they're still thinking this is how we did it, right?
Right.
Like if you look, this is a stupid example, but last night the NBA All-Star game was on, and the older guys all buttoned up their suit jacket. The younger guys had some sort of swag going on and didn't care. That's a cultural or generational change.
Right.
So is it wrong? Is it right? Younger guys might say it's not wrong. Older guys might say it is wrong. So it's all about how you grew up, and that forms who you are in the personality. So again, it's a case by case or person by person thing. But you really, no matter what, to really dive deep into it, you one have to understand what you're looking for, and two, you have to understand that person. I believe. Like otherwise, you can't judge them, which is hard because humans suck at that.
Yeah. To me, the first thing I think of is like sagging pants.
Yeah.
Wild. Like to me, that's I would like never like sag my pants.
Same. Like I don't get it.
Yeah.
Like why do you gotta show your underwear? Like my parents would be like, that is not acceptable.
Right. I mean, yeah, I went to private school, so I definitely would have got caught up in it. Of being in trouble and such, but like the kids coming in nowadays, like it's just like a style. I'm sure it's cool too.
Yeah.
Like, it's a style.
Yeah.
And to me, like, I mean, there's no sagging at Woodward, so then we're always telling kids to pull their pants. But like, why is that redeemed like culturally like acceptable? You know?
Yeah.
Like to me, like why like you want to show off your ass like that?
Yeah.
Especially how I see it. Like they're in a dorm with like 20 other men.
Yeah. Like what's the point?
I was like, why? Like, what's the point? Like,
yeah.
To me, I like that. I just sucks, but I understand where like when coming from like the outs or like coming from like the general public, how like the standard is or like that's the style is like. You know,
it's really interesting because a lot of it stems from how you grew up or what you first learned. It's really hard. It's really hard to unlearn something.
Yeah. Then you look at it like how does someone seem like? How do you feel like put together and like?
Yeah,
and,
like they might think they're right. You know what I mean?
That's what I'm saying. It's like I'm not saying they're wrong. At the end of the day, I care about you. Yeah, you walk around underwear for all I care.
Yeah, I mean,
I was like, and if you have it free, like I don't care. You walk around in your underwear all day long.
Yeah, but again, I think this all stems back to it's so hard to change a person's mind and their mental state.
Right.
Especially today. I mean, again, technology, depression, suicide rates, all that is all times. COVID didn't help with all that. But think about all the human activity and brain. It's just changing so rapidly.
Mm-hmm.
So it just goes back to really how to change people's minds. And it's just as hard to unlearn something, if not harder, than if you did when you learned it. That's why trauma is such a big thing. And again, I mean, we talk about this too. Even Steph and I talk about this a lot. Like, trauma affects you years down the road, maybe not day to day, but it's still there and still shapes you a little bit. So every little thing, every decision, every reflection, literally everything shapes you.
Yeah.
That's why everybody has a learning disability. That's why everybody's an unfinished product. That's why the process is so important. That's why everybody's messed up in their own way. That's why I think you need a spiritual higher power. It all comes back to in the world. Remember Josh back in the day? Nothing matters.
I still say that every day to these kids, like the kids I work with.
Yeah.
I was like, and then nothing matters.
And yeah, I mean, we're having this conversation. We're trying to solve these so-called problems or curious about these. No way we figure it out.
Right.
That's just straight up. I'm not being negative because that's just straight up me saying I want to understand the world. How do you define if that's successful or not?
I was like, that's such a
like we strive. We get so stressed out trying to understand this or trying to do this. Like for me to understand every single kid in my classroom, like you asked about, like dealing with different personalities, I would have to deal with 30 different personalities every single period.
Yeah.
You know how hard that is to teach?
Right.
It's already hard to teach 30 kids and like have 4 different activities because there's always that one kid who's like, this is boring. There's always a kid who's like, I get this super easy. And there's the other kid who's like, what?
Right.
So life is complicated.
I'm with you.
Sorry, that was a rant, but I just think it's all just so hard, but yet we put so much effort into it.
Lives are easy. I feel like we make it hard.
Yeah, that's
because the world is hard.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Life's hard because we make it hard. In the end, simplicity.
Yeah,
simplicity is better.
Yeah.
It is. You're right. What else? Anything else?
I feel like
we've had another episode within an episode.
Yeah, and that because you talk about trauma, and I think yes, trauma's there, but I think you really have you have trauma. I feel like you know when you have trauma.
Yeah.
And that you go through something, hard times, anything like that.
And we're gonna have a trauma episode.
Yeah. And I just want to touch on it, like just a quick tab, real quick.
Okay.
But just so we can wrap it up. To me, you have to be able to identify your own trauma and work through it. Because if you don't, it always haunts you. It's always there.
Yeah.
And that's why I try and tell my kids, because a lot of the kids I work with, and a lot of them come through shitty situations.
Yeah.
Not that you don't, but my kids just are explicitly at the school because of their shitty relationship.
And I don't think you need to get rid of it. I just think you need to accept it or be okay with it.
That's what I said.
Don't let it weigh you down.
Yes. That's what I'm saying.
Look at it as a moving forward, not a negative. You know what I'm saying?
Because a lot of trauma that happens to people, you can't control.
A lot of it's out of your
family died. We were just
shout out to Tristan and
Justin. I was just saying, we just had their 3-year anniversary, and I was thinking about that and how much I've grown from since day one to now.
Yeah.
I was and I still miss them daily. I'm dang.
Yeah.
And I wish Tristan, or sometimes I'll be like, hey, I wish someone's here to pray with me.
Yeah.
And not they aren't, but just on a physical level.
Yeah.
But anyway, I was saying I talked to the kids about yes, your trauma's not gonna go away because it shaped you, but you the faster you learn how to deal with what's happened to you, the faster you can move on because it neutralizes everything else that's happened in your past.
And you don't mean rush it, but
no, but when you identify those types of things, and that you're just able to surround yourself with better things, and you're able to learn better.
More clarity.
Yes,
more clarity.
And because then a lot of trauma comes from triggers, and that's what I say. Kids will tell me this triggers me, that triggers me.
Which having clarity
Yeah.
helps those triggers and maybe puts a new trigger in a positive sense as well. That's the same thing as learning.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Because when you identify the triggers, you're learning now you have to, after you've identified them, you're learning what to do, how to learn, how to navigate through them so they no longer triggers towards you. And a lot of kids and I get upset when people talk about their moms or their families.
Mm-hmm.
I'm yes, so that's a trigger, but none of these kids know who you are, where you come from, or anyone in your family. I was
sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will not hurt me.
Words can be hurtful.
Yeah, but you gotta allow them to let them hurt you.
Yeah, I was
feeling other people have the power over you, which is again way easier to say that than to actually say it doesn't hurt you and believe that.
Right.
But I think trauma is the same as learning. You kind of just explained. Really, in the end, it's a decision
to move on.
Yeah, you can't control some of it.
Yes.
If geometry comes hard to you, no way you're going to learn in a day. But are you dedicated to trying to put your best foot forward?
Yeah. Because either trauma can help you or hurt you.
Yeah.
If you just
you're never saying the same.
Yeah. I don't even know to go with this. I could be stuck on Tristan and Justin.
Mm-hmm.
That so especially going through everything,
mm-hmm.
and then being stuck I should have been in the car and kind of being survival skill I could lead that to some pretty bad decisions in my life.
Yeah, and if you're stuck on it though, you're never gonna propel yourself to do whatever you're supposed to be doing in life.
Right.
which I think, again, maybe a higher power helped with that, which it probably has for you. But
For sure.
yeah, I just think the key is what you're saying. Eyes forward.
Yeah.
Eyes forward. And I mean, just because we say eyes forward doesn't mean you shouldn't reflect on it or shouldn't let it be emotional at times. Just like learning can be so frustrating, especially if everybody starts getting something and you don't. Like you just feel dumb or left out. Everybody's felt like that in some way, shape, or form in something in their lives. So I think people should have some compassion on that
Right.
as well.
What's the challenge of the week?
So challenge, remember, is to find out what kind of learner you are. And if you know what kind of learner you are, like we kind of explained what we're best at, I think we should, if you already know what the learner is that you are, I think you should think about times during the week where you're like learning something and try to be like, oh, I can change this to be an experience for me instead of writing it down.
Yeah.
And then you can learn it better, hopefully, and start to recognize those different situations in order to propel yourself forward. And maybe a couple times your week, you're like, you know what, I don't learn very well by reading and writing. This is a pretty simple task. I'm going to try and learn it by reading and writing. So you can kind of grow your baseline.
Yeah. Because
sometimes you're going to have to read and write, whether you like it or not.
Right.
Right? I got to go to meetings sometimes. I hate meetings, but I gotta go.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that's a good plan for any listener.
Right.
All right, we'll end there. Thanks guys for listening. Hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, like, comment, subscribe. We'll put all the links down below. Have a good rest of your week. Catch you guys on Thursday.
Yes, thank you again. Love you. Bye. Bye, YouTube.
Bye, buddy. Hope you find your dad.